I'm 36, male, a contractor by trade, and until recently, the kind of person who thought loyalty mattered above all else. I've been married for 8 years, or at least I thought I was married to someone who shared my values. It turns out, I've been the fool in a game I didn't even know I was playing. This is the story of how my wife framed me for something unforgivable and how I made sure she paid for it in ways she never saw coming. It started subtly. My wife, 34, who I'll call W, started becoming distant about a year ago. At first, I chalked it up to stress. She had started a new job, managing a boutique marketing firm, and late nights became the norm. I'd cook, clean, and handle the errands while she came home tired, distracted, and barely present. When I tried to connect, she'd say she needed space, that I was smothering her. One night, she came home late, again, and I asked, "Everything okay? You've been working crazy hours." Her response was sharp. "Why do you always think there's something wrong? Can't you just trust me?" That stung. I never questioned her fidelity or integrity. I backed off, thinking I was overreacting. But then the small changes started stacking up. She began guarding her phone like it held state secrets, working out obsessively, and dressing up more than usual for work meetings. Every time I asked if we were okay, she turned it around on me. It was like I was the problem. The turning point came 3 months ago. One afternoon, I came home from a job site early. W was supposed to be at work, but her car was in the driveway. Inside, I heard hushed voices. I froze, listening at the base of the stairs. A man's voice. My heart dropped. I didn't storm up. Instead, I left quietly and started thinking about my next steps. That night, I acted normal. Over dinner, I casually mentioned I had seen her car at home earlier. Her face didn't flinch. "Oh, I work from home for a bit." "Why?" The lie was so smooth, it almost convinced me. Almost. From that moment, I started paying attention. I didn't accuse her outright because I needed proof. I wasn't going to confront her without something solid. A buddy of mine suggested a private investigator, so I hired one. It cost a few thousand, but what I got was worth every penny. Photos of W with a man, at a hotel, at restaurants, even in our own house. When I saw the evidence, I was furious. But instead of exploding, I decided to stay calm and calculate my next move. I knew W well enough to realize that confrontation would only lead to manipulation. If she was this comfortable lying to my face, she wouldn't hesitate to twist things in her favor. The next week, things escalated in ways I couldn't have imagined. I came home to a letter from a law firm claiming I was being accused of domestic violence. W had filed a temporary restraining order, TRO, against me. My stomach churned as I read the allegations. According to her, I was emotionally abusive, controlling, and had physically threatened her. None of it was true. The TRO meant I had to leave the house immediately. It was like my entire world flipped upside down. I moved in with my brother and began piecing things together. W wasn't just cheating, she was trying to destroy me. I knew what this was about. She wanted the house, the cars, and probably everything else. By painting me as an abuser, she could secure the upper hand in a divorce. But here's where things get interesting. I wasn't going to roll over. I hired a lawyer, an experienced bulldog who specialized in high-conflict divorces. He told me to play it smart and stay one step ahead. "If she's lying, we'll prove it," he said. First, I started gathering evidence to disprove her claims. Text messages, emails, photos of us together during the time frames she claimed I was abusive. My lawyer subpoenaed her phone records and credit card statements. The private investigator I had hired, he came through again, digging up dirt on W's boyfriend, who turned out to be married with kids. The first court hearing was tense. W showed up with tears in her eyes, playing the victim to perfection. She claimed she feared for her life, that I was unstable and had a temper. But my lawyer came prepared. He presented the photos of her affair, questioned her inconsistencies, and pointed out that I had no history of violence. No police reports, no complaints from neighbors, nothing. The judge wasn't buying her story. The TRO was dismissed, and I was allowed back into the house. W looked stunned. She had underestimated me, thinking I'd crumble under the pressure. Instead, I was just getting started. Once back home, I found more ammunition. On our shared computer, W had left her email logged in. I found emails between her and her lover discussing their plans to sell the house and split the profits once I was out of the picture. They even joked about how gullible I was. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. The divorce proceedings began, and W continued to play dirty. She tried to claim she was entitled to spousal support, even though she earned more than I did. She demanded the house, the cars, and half my business. But every time she made a move, we countered with evidence of her infidelity, her false accusations, and her blatant entitlement. The final nail in the coffin came when we exposed her lover's identity in court. His wife, who had no idea about the affair, was livid. She filed for divorce and testified against W, corroborating everything I had claimed about the affair and their plans. It was a brutal takedown, and W couldn't worm her way out of it. By the end of the divorce, the judge ruled heavily in my favor. W got nothing. No spousal support, no claim to my business, and she was ordered to pay half of the legal fees. The house? Mine. The cars? Mine. She left with only her personal belongings and the shattered remnants of her reputation. The best part? Her job found out about the affair and fired her for violating company policy. Apparently, her lover was a client, and their relationship breached ethics guidelines. Last I heard, she's living in a small apartment, trying to rebuild her life. As for me, I've moved on. The whole ordeal taught me that blind loyalty can be dangerous, and sometimes the only way to fight back is to play smarter than your opponent. In the days after the dust settled, I found myself reflecting on how it all unraveled so quickly. 1 minute, I was the guy who trusted his wife implicitly. The next, I was collecting evidence to dismantle the life we built together. It was surreal, but as much as it hurt, there was also a strange sense of satisfaction in knowing I hadn't let her walk all over me. After the divorce, I took some time to regroup. The house felt different without W. At first, it was eerie, like her presence still lingered in the shadows. But then I started making it mine. I repainted the walls, got rid of every piece of furniture she picked out, and even landscaped the backyard. Turning the space into something new felt cathartic, like I was shedding the last bits of her influence. But here's where things took an unexpected turn. About a month after the divorce was finalized, I got an email from her. The subject line simply read, "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside, she wrote about how she was struggling, how she made mistakes, and how she thought we could have handled things differently. She asked if we could meet for coffee, just to talk. I wasn't sure what her angle was, but I wasn't about to let her manipulate me again. I replied with a curt, "No, there's nothing to discuss. Please respect my boundaries." I blocked her email after that. Whatever she was looking for, she wasn't going to find it from me. A week later, a mutual friend reached out. "Did you hear about W?" they asked. I hadn't. Turns out, she was now on the verge of bankruptcy. Without her job or the financial support she expected to wring out of me, she was drowning in debt. Her lover had left her after his wife divorced him, taking most of his assets in the process. W had burned every bridge she'd ever built. Part of me felt sorry for her, but only a small part. The rest of me knew she had brought this on herself. She thought she could cheat, lie, and manipulate her way to a better life, but all she did was destroy everything she had. One day, I ran into her at the grocery store. It was the first time I'd seen her since the divorce. She looked tired, almost unrecognizable. Her hair was unkempt, her clothes wrinkled, and there was a heaviness in her eyes. She approached me, and for a moment, I thought about walking away. But something in me wanted to hear what she had to say. I wanted to apologize, she said quietly. For everything, I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. Okay, I didn't mean for things to get so bad, she continued. I was angry, and I made mistakes. Yeah, you did, I said. But the thing is, I gave you everything, and you threw it away. I don't owe you anything now. She looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. Instead, she just nodded and walked away. That was the last time I ever saw her. These days, I'm doing better than ever. My business is thriving. I've reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage, and I'm finally starting to date again. It's not easy to trust someone after what I went through, but I'm learning to take things slow. What this whole experience taught me is that people can be unpredictable. The person you think you know best can turn out to be a stranger. But it also taught me that standing up for yourself is worth it, even when it feels impossible. I didn't let her win, and I'm proud of that. So, yeah, to anyone out there dealing with betrayal, just know this: you're stronger than you think. And if you play your cards right, justice has a way of catching up with people. If you want more stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe. After all, there's nothing more satisfying than seeing karma served with a side of receipts.